Hi, everybody, and welcome back. You've probably heard of the one more year syndrome. And let's talk about that today, shall we? The one more year syndrome is when people have enough money to retire and they're old enough to retire, but they keep on working for whatever reason, year after year after year, well beyond their target date. And it usually sounds something like this. Well, I think I'm going to work just one more year, and then it turns into just one more year, and then it turns into one more year, and so forth. Sometimes this is called chronic indecisiveness. And when a person gets caught up in that one more year syndrome and they are chronically indecisive, the next thing you know, it's been 5 years or 7 years or 10 years, and they're still working when they could have retired long ago. And when they finally do pull the trigger, or they're forced out, they're too old or too sick to be able to enjoy an active lifestyle in their senior years. Essentially, they've used up the best years of their senior years on the job rather than for themselves. So today I'd like to share with you a few reasons or tips as to why it might be better to get out as soon as you can rather than later than you should, to prevent ourselves from getting caught up in that one more year cycle. And by the way, the tips that I'm going to share today are not science-based. They are nothing more than my subjective experience. So take what you like and throw out the rest. Okay, number one, retiring is about detox or detoxifying your life. And this is a good reason to pull the trigger and get out. You're most likely carrying around a lot of built-up toxicity in your life from decades of working, probably more than what you realize. And by that I mean emotional toxicity, relational toxicity, conflict, burnout, stress, fatigue, and all those kind of things. But when you retire and leave the 9 to 5, it's like going on a detox. It really is. As you purge your system from a lifetime of junk and stress that has built up within you over the decades. And when you do this, it begins a journey of healing for you, and you become whole again. So this is a good reason to get out earlier rather than later, because retirement has a real health benefit. It's about detoxifying your life. Number two, the decision to retire is part math, part psychological. Now let's just go ahead and say it up front. The math has got to work. You need a certain amount of money to retire. You got to have some financial means, because if you don't, you won't be able to retire. But it is the psychological aspect that causes many people to get caught up in that one more year syndrome. They are held captive in their mind by fear or paralysis or whatever, and they keep working year after year after year for more money when they probably already have enough money. Now, before I retired, I was pretty certain that the math was going to work. But after I retired, it took me a little while longer to mentally catch up. And now that I have mentally caught up, I'm so glad that I didn't work any longer than I did. I'm so glad that I didn't work a year longer than I did. I'm so glad that I didn't work 1 minute longer than I did. And it's the psychological aspect that seizes us up in fear. Now, I've been fully retired for 3 years now, and I absolutely love it. There's no going back for me, ever, under any circumstance. In fact, I enjoy retirement so much that I would be willing to eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for the rest of my life if it could make the difference in going back to work or not. So I've said all that to say, you need to recognize that there really is a psychological aspect to making the decision to retire. And if we're not careful, we can get caught up in that one more year syndrome because we're held mentally captive by it. And the good news is it can be overcome. Number three, after you pull the trigger, your fears will diminish and you'll adapt to your retirement life just fine. You'll make the necessary adjustments along the way. Now, let me tell you my story. When I first retired, it kind of felt like I was on a vacation. I mean, it was fantastic. It was new, it was fresh. I was away from work. I was able to sleep in the mornings without an alarm clock for those first few days or weeks or whatever. And it felt like I was on vacation. It was new and fresh and very exciting. But then, after a few months, the reality of retirement really began to set in. And I realized that this vacation is not coming to an end, and I won't have a job to go back to because I don't have a job anymore. And this is when I really began to dig down and navigate my way forward. I made the adjustments and just made it work. And here's what happened to me. The longer I was retired, I began to adapt to my new life, and the better it became. Each passing day is better than yesterday. It really is. Now, I feel like this is my new identity. I'm completely a brand new person. I am no longer my former job title who has went on an extended vacation. I am now Ronnie, who is on a brand new journey for the rest of his life. And all of those years of job identity and working for a living, well, guess what? It's just all fading into the background. So that's another good reason to not get caught up in the one more year syndrome, because after you pull the trigger, your fears are going to go away. They just really are, and you're just going to adapt just fine. So let's make a pivot and talk about some of the financial aspects. Number 4, it doesn't take as much money to retire as you might think. If the math is keeping you on the one more year syndrome treadmill, just remember this. It probably doesn't take as much money as you might think. If your sole reason for working those extra years is money or the fear of running out of money, consider these facts. Only 3% of Americans have $1 million or more. That means the other 97% of us retire with less than that amount. A lot of people are retiring nowadays with $500,000 or less. In fact, a lot of people are able to retire with nothing more than an emergency fund and their Social Security. It's true, it can be done. Now let me tell you a true story. And this was written by one of the subscribers to this channel. This gentleman wrote that he retired when he was 62 years old. That's right, 62. And he had $160,000 in a 401k. Plus, he had zero debt. Now, that's huge. It's ginormous to have zero debt at any point in your life, especially in retirement. So he retired at 62. He had $160,000 in a 401, and he had zero debt. So he started Social Security at age 62, which is early, as you know, which also meant that he took a 30% reduction from the full benefit amount, and he was able to live on his Social Security alone, because if you don't have any debt, your cost of living goes way, way down. And he didn't have to even tap into his 401k, that $160,000, until he was age 72. He stated that he is now 82, and he has been doing this for 20 years. So it can be done on a lot less money than what we think. Now, of course, there's a lot of factors that figure into that, but it can be done on a lot less money. In fact, you can retire on almost any amount of money. It just depends upon what you're willing to accept as a lifestyle. If you're willing to accept a lifestyle here, or here, or here, or here, or here, you can retire on a lot less money. Now, number 5, when you're trying to come up with a number, start with your expenses. That's the starting point. Now, people will often ask the question, how much money do I need to retire? How big does my nest egg need to be? In fact, I get asked that question a lot on this channel, but guess what? I can't answer that question. Nobody can answer that question for you, because everybody is different and everybody is unique. The better question to ask is, what are my expenses each month? What are my expenses annually? How much money do I need to cover my expenses? That is your starting number. Okay? That is your starting number, and you can go from there. And it goes without saying, the lower your expenses, the less it takes, and the easier it is to pull the trigger. And then number 6, time is more important than money. Now, if you're stuck on that treadmill of 1 more year syndrome, it's important for you to realize that as we get older, time is running out. Now, all of us know or have heard of somebody who worked longer than what they should have. For whatever reason, they stayed in the rat race, they worked more years or extra years than they should have, and when they finally did retire, it was so late in life that their health quickly fell apart, or maybe they even died shortly thereafter. And we've all seen those kind of stories, and we've all heard those kind of stories, and it should serve to give us a swift kick in the seat of the pants. Now, I've said all that to say this. Once you reach your financial goal, if you continue working beyond that point, then you're selling your time for money that you may not really need. The money that you earn at that point isn't worth as much as the time you're losing. In other words, you're more in danger of running out of health or running out of life than you are running out of money. Missing out on a few extra years of income is nothing compared to the freedom that you experience when you retire. The time that you spend on the job, those extra years, earning a few dollars more, are the years that you could be living your best life. So there you go. Those are my reasons to break free of the 1 more year syndrome if you're caught up on it. I hope this has been encouraging to you, because you really can break free and begin living your best life now. So tell me what you think. Leave me a comment down below. Please like and subscribe. I'm Ronnie. Take care, and we'll see you next time.